I think listeners will be very concerned to hear how managers at this hospital were almost in a way preoccupied about the effect calling the police in might have. And the Sunday Times has been able to see documents and minutes of meetings and emails that show quite clearly the executives at the trust discussing the possible impact of a police investigation and the arrest of Letby, a year before they actually ended up doing that. And that just goes to show the delays really that went on, and why clinicians at the trust and other staff, I have to say, fear that, in some cases some of her victims might have been saved had they acted sooner.
How long have you been working on it for, Sean? And give us some detail here on the attempts made by the hospital to save face.
This has been a major investigation for us since the trial first started, and Lucy was arrested almost. We've been looking at this. And for me, as health editor, I've been talking to staff who work at the hospital. I've been talking to staff who've moved on and former directors and people on the board, and also lower down people on the front line. There's a lot of concern in that hospital about what happened over Lucy. We've heard already from some of the doctors who tried to raise concerns, and what the Sunday Times has obtained is copies of documents, crucially, one of which is the grievance report that we've seen, which Letby complained about the way she was being treated by the hospital in 2016. And this report sort of sets out, in a way, in a very sort of, I have to say, I feel myself a little bit of a biased way about how she'd been treated and the concerns. And there's open reference in this report to, one doctor says they have a drawer of doom that links Letby to incidents. Another is said to have said to a manager, "You're harbouring a murderer." And this was all taking place, a year before police were called. The grievance report actually finds in the end that that Letby was victimised by the doctors. In fact, that they should apologise. It even recommends that she should be given the opportunity to bring a bullying complaint. And I think what's most shocking is that the outcome of that grievance led to a discussion about getting her a placement at Alderhay Children's Hospital, which obviously a world famous children's hospital. And if that had succeeded, we would have ended up with Britain's most prolific child serial killer working on the wards of Alderhay Children's Hospital. And I think a lot of readers will and listeners will be shocked at this. It really does expose the governance failures at the top of the trust here that unfortunately almost allowed Lucy Letby to get away with murder.
You also reveal that she was set to be given support for a master's degree or helped with further training to become an advanced nurse. So here is someone who's not only the subject of warnings and very strong allegations from her senior doctors, she seems to be being rewarded off the back of them.
Yeah, it was.
But you say, yeah, go on.
It was almost like a deal that they were doing with her, really, to get her off their backs almost after she'd brought the grievance. And we've seen evidence that the chief executive Tony Chambers met with Lucy Letby and her parents in a meeting in December 2016, where he apologised to her and promised her parents that the doctors would be, quotes, dealt with. And similarly, in another example of how the trust was sort of manipulated and bent to Lucy Letby's will, the trust board met in private and they had effectively a victim statement from Lucy read out to them about how the allegations of the doctors had affected her. And that, coupled with some very poor investigations of what had been going on at the trust, which didn't get to the heart of it all worked to twist the trust against the doctors, really, and led to further delays for justice for these families. And I think it raises real questions for the wider NHS about their governance systems. And you can't protect against a psychopath in many ways killing patients, but what we should be able to protect against is where concerns are raised, they'll be acted on properly and investigations carried out. And I'm afraid the Countess of Chester failed miserably.
So it's almost like, Sean, if I'm to take a step back from this, the allegations were so strong and so unrelatable to a nurse at that time, like Lucy Letby, that the trust took her side. There was almost too much evidence, so much so that it became extreme and the trust viewed that senior consultants, senior doctors were effectively bullying Lucy Letby.
Yeah, they thought they were sort of carrying out a witch hunt against her. But what's crucial, Kate, is that the evidence was there, but the medical director Ian Harvey was told on three separate occasions by three different experts that what was really needed was a forensic case review of every death, and he never acted on that advice. And when he presented to the trust board in January 2017, he effectively gave a picture to the board that I think led them down the wrong path, and they sided against the doctors. And what we now know is that had those investigations been done to the standard he was advised to do them, it's very possible we could have learned what was going on, and Lucy could have been stopped and arrested much sooner.